This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 126. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Strozinski. On today's episode, we're going to talk about some big-time WWE main event pay-per-views that might not be taking place. Brody Lee had a ton to say, as well as what's been going on with Kairi Sane. And it also sounds like WWE and Fox they're basically trying to put the rabbit back in the hat. And we're going to discuss that, touch on it during news and notes, and I think we'll have a little bit of an expanded discussion. Of course, it's WrestleMania weekend, so we've got 2 days. 2 days. WrestleMania 36 is big enough for 2 days. 2 days worth of predictions to give you, as well as the biggest topics and trends in the wrestling universe right now. Doing it with me, as always, he's the one. He's the only. He goes by Cinnamon, and he's got glitter on his eyebrows. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz it's WrestleMania weekend, and I could not be any less excited about it. 2 days. I saw the review that you put together, and I said, oh my God, there's maybe 2 matches I'm really heavily invested in. This year's WrestleMania, probably, like we've said, should have been postponed. If Drew McIntyre gets his defining moment in front of nobody, it's going to diminish it. So I'm looking forward to seeing your perspective on it in these matches, but it just seems like in this time of the COVID pandemic, wrestling should have taken a back seat and maybe reset everything in terms of the action. WrestleMania, 2 nights in front of nobody. It's already been pre-taped. Luckily, they're doing a good job of not releasing too many spoilers, but for me, I'm not looking forward to it that much, and I can't believe I was just thinking before we started recording, wow, WrestleMania is tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm not extremely pumped up about this either. It's look, the sell and the build to it has been different because of everything that's gone on with COVID-19. Getting to this point, nothing has really caught me. Nothing has me like, man, I got to see this match. And you're right. Everything's going to be pre-taped. It's going to be done in front of essentially nobody. It'll just be stagehands and the announcers. Doesn't really do it for me. I feel WrestleMania probably should have been postponed. You probably could have came up with a different way to do this in a way to sell this. I am not invested in any matches or either night for that matter of WrestleMania. And, you know, on Monday Night Raw, The Undertaker came out and I think he cut a fantastic promo. A matter of fact, you and I were going back and forth texting each other, talking about the promo because we thought it was so damn good. And it was straight up, it was like Mark Calloway just talking to you and just calling out AJ Styles, calling him out by his real name. It was a fantastic, fantastic promo. And even The Undertaker calling out a awesome worker like AJ Styles, a superstar like AJ Styles, still doesn't have me geared up to watch what we're about to watch. Like you said, tomorrow and on Sunday with WrestleMania. I'm just not invested in really anything going on with wrestling right now. And if you look at the numbers, the viewership essentially says the same thing. These are becoming, these programs, these shows are becoming really, really hard to sell. You know, it's a totally different vibe when there's nobody in the crowd watching. And I don't think you could have ever sold it to me that wrestling needs its fans, but after what we witnessed the last couple weeks, wrestling is so much better in front of a live audience that is totally with it. You know what I'm saying? It is a different show, and for some reason or another, not having the fans there, these shows just definitely fall flat.
For me, I just need CM Punk or it's just going to be another show. Because, look, you got all these matches. It's just, you look at it and you say, okay, there's a couple matches on the card that you want to see the payoff. Obviously, Edge, Randy Orton. You want to see Bray Wyatt and John Cena. The rest of the card, you could probably just lop off the rest of it and air 3 matches on one night, and then the rest you can air over the next 3 weeks in terms of the card. So I look at it and I say, this WrestleMania, when it was decided it was going to be taken away from Tampa Bay, they should have just said, okay, you know what? All these matches can't be on WrestleMania, bro. Look at all these matches. You got King Corbin Elias. That's not a WrestleMania match. That's not what's supposed to be happening. And to go back to your point in regards to The Undertaker, epic promo. The guys that have been given the time, you know that's why certain guys were allotted time like Edge, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and The Undertaker because they were going to deliver. And so the one part about Raw that bothered me was the end. Brock Lesnar has Paul Heyman, right? And now at this point in time, when Paul Heyman has worked with Brock Lesnar for damn near a decade, I was sitting there going, man, Paul Heyman is a legend at doing this, but he's done it 5,000 times that it sounded the same. Drew McIntyre, you're going to beat Brock's bitch. He's probably said that like 50 times. And I just said that, you know, at this point in time, hell, it's a unique situation. Let Brock Lesnar cut a promo. I mean, come on. It's one show. Yes, Paul Heyman's the hype man, and he's been a legendary side piece for Brock Lesnar. But this is the one time where it's unique. Let Brock say something. Let him do something different. This man can talk. Let him say something for 2 minutes and we move on. So for me, I was just like sitting there listening to it and going, man, this is the height of a notion that the law of diminishing return. I got nothing out of Paul Heyman's promo. Nothing. No reaction. Yeah. I didn't care. I didn't think the match, progressed or the rivalry. I didn't care at all.
I was in a similar boat too. Watching it, I was like, it's the same old thing. It's just cut, copy, paste. Cut, copy, paste. That's all it is. That's it. The one thing I did like about Raw, and I know WWE is doing this because Andrade is hurt, and they're kind of having to pivot here. What they're doing with Zelina Vega, I really, really like. I feel like they're building her a nice little heel stable, giving her almost like what the $1 Million Man used to be in the late early 90s, where he had his own little heel stable. He was essentially the hype man. Had 3 or 4 wrestlers that wrestled for him, and I really feel like that's what they're doing with Zelina Vega here. She is a star. She's not great in the ring, but she is excellent eye candy, and she's fantastic with a microphone, and she does a really, really good job running interference during the matches for these guys. You know, having that ballet that can do these types of things really is a lost art for him, and I think they're giving her a spotlight, and they're giving her a moment to shine. I think that was the one thing that I took away from Monday Night Raw this week that I really, really enjoyed, and that I thought was, this is some good character development. This is something good. These are things you can do with extremely limited resources, and you can do good things to help build a character and move a character along. Everything else I got out of this week in wrestling was just kind of like wet wallpaper. Couldn't really do a whole lot with it. Didn't really enjoy it, you know?
Exactly. Zelina Vega is going to do great. I think that, in this era of the women's revolution, a lot of the women have been forced to wrestle, and it's okay if there's a nice-looking woman that can portray a heel and do the job. It's okay. She doesn't have to be somebody that has to then go into the ring. She can have that role, and I think she'll be kind of the new age, the new wave of Sensational Sherry, who I think was one of the top 3 valets of all time.
Oh, man, she was great.
Yep, and Zelina Vega is working her way up there, and I think that she's got all the passion, and she is somebody that the fans can gravitate towards and not like. So that's all you can ask for from a valet.
What do you think about WWE advertising Bill Goldberg versus Roman Reigns in a match that Roman Reigns pulled out of WrestleMania 36? I think it was almost 2 weeks ago now. On our rundown for our predictions, we got Goldberg taking on Braun Strowman. which is just kind of weird how this is going to happen. But they keep advertising Goldberg versus Reigns, and they know they can't deliver it. This is a total slap in the face for WWE fans, especially the smart marks.
Exactly. And then I think the code is social media. Once Roman Reigns is on Instagram saying, yeah, I'm not on it, and then you got Triple H coming out and saying that if there are wrestlers that are compromised, then they shouldn't get into the ring. Well, it's like, why are you advertising? Everybody knows you can suspend it at this point in time. So, they're going to make it obviously a storyline. And I think it's corny at this point in time in regards to that. But you know who this benefits? Goldberg, because I don't think you and I think that, and we'll get to it, I guess, in the predictions, but I don't think they're going to put the belt on Braun Strowman this fast. I think that would be a quick shift. That would be quite surprising, though, and I'll think about it more as we get to the predictions. But I think at this point in time, at the time of this recording, you could say that Goldberg potentially could have a run till SummerSlam with the belt.
It's true. No, it's true. You're absolutely right, because of everything that's going on right now, and we're going to talk about it during the news and notes with some pay-per-views that are going to be, we'll use the term shifted. You're absolutely right. He could hold the belt until SummerSlam. And with what's going on with wrestling, absolutely. That is an absolute possibility, which I think kind of segues into the next conversation. Is Goldberg one of the many stars under the most pressure to deliver at WrestleMania 36? Because I think you could make the case that Goldberg, in his match, he was supposed to take on Roman Reigns, and we both believed he was going to drop the belt to Reigns. Well, things have shifted. Things have adjusted. So now, is Bill Goldberg under an immense amount of pressure to put on a good match? Bill Goldberg hasn't had a good match in quite some time. If you watched any of the matches that take place in Saudi Arabia, they are usually very poor to average at best. But I think
I'm looking at your predictions here and looking at the match setup. No, I don't think Goldberg is the guy. You know what? I'm looking at this and I say, wow, there are 6 quality matches with some names. Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, Goldberg, Braun Strowman, Edge, Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, and Cena. But the 2 guys that I believe have the most pressure to deliver is, I think, the match that will actually end up potentially being one of the best matches of the night. And that's Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins.
Ooh.
These are 2 guys that the company has invested heavily in. You look back at when Kevin Owens debuted, this guy came in right away, was getting big W's. And now he's got a featured match with Seth Rollins, a guy that's always considered a great in-ring performer, a guy that just has to work on the side stuff in terms of the promos and the character. But you never doubt when Seth Rollins enters that ring that he can put together a great match. And so if these 2 guys really understand psychology and what can happen in a match maybe with no audience, I'm starting to think that when the weekend clears, we're going to be talking about something that happened from Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins, because I think they both have that attitude of like, I want to steal the damn show. I want to show the bosses that I'm still the guy. And it just seems like, yes, Seth Rollins has been devalued a little bit by kind of the angles that he's been in the last few months. But I think in this situation, when 2 guys that are known in-ring tacticians and can perform, I think that those 2 guys got the most pressure, because the rest of the card, outside of, AJ Styles, the rest, I don't think people are going to really care either way. So I think this WrestleMania is going to have some unique moments, but I think that Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are going to step up and make everybody talk about whatever the hell they do.
See, this is where I think you're a little bit wrong and a little bit short-sighted. I think Edge is probably the guy who's under the absolute most pressure right now. The Edge and Randy Orton match, out of all the matches, that's probably the one I want to see the most. And I really want to see Drew McIntyre win the belt from Brock Lesnar, not necessarily in this way, in this setup with no fans, but I think Edge and Randy Orton, I think that has the possibility to be the match that grabs you and pulls you in. I also think Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler, because they've been given a lot of time in recent weeks, I think there's some pressure there to go out and deliver a really good match, especially since they've kind of adjusted things on the fly with the ladies title. And the ladies titles, we're just throwing it out there because we have to have a match. If you really look at what they've done for that match, we're just throwing it out there because we've got to do something. Because originally you were supposed to get a Bayley Sasha Banks match that we're not getting now. So for me, I think Goldberg's under an immense amount of pressure because he's going to get the spotlight here. And now the story has changed. He's got to go out there. He's got to have a decent match. It doesn't have to be great, but it has to be good. And I think Edge and Randy Orton are underneath a ton of pressure, as well as the two ladies, who will probably be highlighting Saturday night's main event. You watched AEW this week, right?
It was good. Yes, it was good.
What'd you think of the setup? Because I thought they nailed it. I thought it was awesome. It turns out they filmed in Georgia, and they filmed at what I believe was a wrestling school. But the way they laid everything out, like they blacked everything out, everything was brought in really, really close. So you didn't even notice that there weren't any fans. And I think the way it felt and the way it looked, it felt like a pumped up indie show. And I think that was the right look.
Exactly. And it's so funny because in my notes ahead of this recording, before AEW aired the show, I said, okay, and the thing that I was thinking and weighing in my mind was, how could wrestling in this age of no fans be better? And I thought of the Women's Revolution pay-per-view, where it was basically the spotlight was on the ring and they blacked out the fans. And so in my notes, I wrote, why not have it where you spotlight the ring and make it so that there is no emphasis on the fact that there's no fans? Because the WWE had it so bright and so blue, and the lights were so bright that you could see all the empty seats all the time, I wrote that what AEW did was exactly what I would have suggested. And they did it. When I saw it, I was like, wow, see? And I just think that this is what happens when a guy like Tony Khan, who's a fan of wrestling, thinks about, well, what's the solution to the fact that we have no fans? Well, let's not emphasize it. Let's emphasize the ring where the action is. So I just think that it's a small adjustment that came off excellent, and AEW is just doing things at a great clip. I just thought that when I saw that, I was like, this is what WWE should have did, and this is what I had thought as well.
No, absolutely. I think AEW nailed it with Dynamite this week. I thought it was another excellent show. The one thing I thought was fun to see and originally took me by surprise. I was in the middle of working in my kitchen. I had my TV on, and when I heard her announce different people's names, I was like, is that Dasha Bot from WWE? So it would seem Dasha Fuentes from WWE has now landed on AEW as a ring announcer. So good for Dasha Bot. I like seeing her. It looked like she found her way to the snack cabinet, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. Cause she looked like she needed a sandwich or two. So I was happy to see her land on her feet and land in AEW. What did you make of Darby Allin turning heel? This was the main event. It was Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin taking on Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears. Shawn Spears and Sammy Guevara throughout the entire match are placing bets and betting on things and don't really seem to be taking this match too seriously. And during the whole thing, they're holding their own with Cody Rhodes and Darby Allin. Darby Allin through most of this match seems like he's taking the brunt of the punishment. And before the match starts, Cody Rhodes gets in the ring. Darby's sitting in the corner. It looks like he's kind of brooding and pouting a little bit. And Cody comes over, kind of taps him on the leg, and Darby just kind of rolls his eyes. And they set up some forced tension here very, very quickly. And in the end, Cody Rhodes, Darby Allin end up losing this match, and Darby turns on Cody and punches him in the face. Do we like the heel turn for Darby Allin?
Absolutely. Because of the fact now it'll place more emphasis on him. Obviously a guy that we had talked about in previous podcasts as a guy that was like, okay, he's right there under the radar. How do we elevate him? And in a situation where a guy could get more attention, what better way than to use Cody Rhodes? And I thought it was perfect. I'm like, this is great. You set up more opponents for Cody Rhodes and you set up opportunities for guys like Darby Allin. And you just look at that persona. you can't cheer a guy that looks like the devil or looks like a guy that has a face paint like that. That's a guy that's a natural, appealing heel.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it comes at the right time. We've talked about Darby Allin losing too many big matches, and something has to change. Something has to turn for him. So in this case, he's turned. It appears he's going to go in the direction of a heel, and he needs to start picking up some big wins here. And I think it's the right time. It's the right move. And I even think it's the right person to do it against. I think this gets Cody Rhodes involved in a really good match. Darby Allin is a fantastic in-ring worker. Darby Allin has a draw and a connection with the fans. Cody does the same. I think sky's the limit here. I really, really do. Let's transition into some predictions for our two, not one, count them, 2 nights. 2 nights worth of WrestleMania 36. Oh joy. Let's start with the championship matches. Brock Lesnar, and this is the card as we have it today. Now, this could change. WWE has promised, they have announced that there will be changes taking place to this card, but they will be taking place at the very last minute. So if something changes or we get something a little bit off here, this is the information we have at this time, on Friday, going into Saturday, when the first WWE WrestleMania will take place. So, Brock Lesnar, the WWE champion, taking on Drew McIntyre. Who do you have winning this?
I don't think you developed this build with Drew McIntyre to have him lose. Now, if this was me, I would delay it, okay? And this is how I would write it in my fantasy booking. If Doc was the booker, I would have Jinder Mahal cost Drew McIntyre the match, and then you kick off a feud, kind of an intermittent back and forth feud for a couple months. And then when wrestling kicks off again, you have Drew McIntyre revisit Brock Lesnar, maybe at SummerSlam or Survivor Series. Yeah, exactly. You need to have a moment. So I would have Drew McIntyre lose. But it's the time now where, WrestleMania is going to create memories in any way that they can. So it's my opinion that in this match, Drew McIntyre wins it.
I do like your fantasy booking. I think it's fantastic. I think what it does is it pulls on something from the past and brings it right to the forefront. And we haven't seen Jinder Mahal in forever. So I like the fantasy booking. I'm going to go Drew McIntyre as well. Like you said, you have built to this, and WWE, for the most part, has continued to go on its merry way without making any adjustments or making any changes to anything. So I think Drew McIntyre wins this, becomes your new WWE champion, and I think it's Drew's time. Bill Goldberg versus what is being reported as Braun Strowman, as Roman Reigns has stepped away for the Universal Championship. How do you see this playing out?
Man, this one's tough. Okay, I want to say the smart move would give it to Braun, but it doesn't seem like from everything that we've seen that Braun is going to get this opportunity. It's so tough because it kind of has the feel of a no finish where they just fight and maybe a DQ type situation, but I don't know. With Drew McIntyre winning, do you then reset with Braun Strowman? Goldberg can't wrestle that much more, but my mind doesn't tell me Braun Strowman, so I might regret it. This might cost me this one, but I think it's Goldberg.
I'm going to go Braun Strowman. I like everything you said. This is a coin flip, right? You have built this up perfectly for Goldberg to win it. I just think they were planning to take the belt off of Goldberg. I think they're going to just put it on Braun, and I think Braun will probably be the guy to drop it to somebody else, whether it be Roman or not. I'm going to go Braun Strowman. He's going to be a transition champion here. Edge versus Randy Orton, last man standing match. I've got Edge winning this one. I don't see how you bring Edge back and you let him do all this fantastic work to go out there and lose his first big match back.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go Edge.
I agree. I just think that in this situation, the heel got over first so that the babyface can come back and have a shining moment. Edge wins.
All right, we move on to The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. I'm a huge fan of John Cena. I will probably attitude adjustment my dog during this match. I will probably put my dog in the STFU as well. I love John Cena, but I'm going Bray Wyatt in this. I think Bray needs the rub, and this is built from years ago at WrestleMania. I think Bray enacts his revenge and beats John Cena.
Exactly. I concur. Go back and watch WrestleMania 30. You had a chance to see The Fiend and John Cena, but in this situation, it'll be great. And I think, I'm kind of curious to see what John Cena brings to the table, but The Fiend wins it, WrestleMania moment.
All right, probably the match that you're most heavily invested in. AJ Styles versus The Undertaker in a Boneyard match. How do you see this playing out?
AJ Styles talked a lot of junk. It's The Undertaker. I don't see AJ Styles getting over in this one. I just think that, The Undertaker's the attraction. It's going to be a great entrance, however it's created. It'll be cinematically special, but I don't think AJ Styles gets over. Give me The Undertaker.
I'm going to go Undertaker as well. When I was watching this week's promo, I had a thought. And you know how AJ Styles likes to bring Gallows and Anderson around? What if Undertaker and Kane were to team up in this match?
Yep, you could have that where Kane's there and helps out if the trio of the original club comes in and interferes. Why not? Yeah, Kane showing up at Mania would not be a terrible surprise.
I'm going to go Undertaker as well. I think Kane maybe interferes and intervenes just a little bit. Becky Lynch and Shayna Baszler fighting for the Raw Women's Championship. This is supposed to take place on Saturday night as your main event. Who do you have winning this?
Man, it's tough because you built up Shayna Baszler, and it just seems like the natural progression at this point in time. So I'm liking, from what I'm seeing, my gut tells me it's Shayna Baszler.
I totally get it. And I can totally see it happening because it only makes sense that Shayna Baszler gets the W here, right? I just don't know if she's the type of champion that Vince wants or Vince sees. I don't think she cuts a great promo. I know she's a badass. I have a hard time giving her the nod. But I think on the other hand, you're right. Becky Lynch has had that belt for so damn long. It might be time for her to give it up. I think Becky Lynch ends up losing this match. It's a close one, but I think Becky Lynch loses this match. So Shayna Baszler gets the W. Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental Champ, versus Daniel Bryan. I'm going to go Daniel Bryan in this. I'm not really sure where we go with this match. I just think the crowd's going to be super pumped for Daniel Bryan. I don't think Sami Zayn retains. If he does retain, it's going to be some type of heel antics. I'm going to go Daniel Bryan.
Okay, so you think the WWE Universe wants Bryan, huh? I don't think you give it to Sami Zayn and have him take off. So for me, it's Sami Zayn. He retains because you can't have every title change. Daniel Bryan doesn't need a belt. He needs to produce a great match. So this one also has a chance to be a really solid match. But give me Sami Zayn, the title holder.
All right, we've got Otis taking on Dolph Ziggler for what I can only assume is
Pre-show.
The love of
the first match ever, the first match of the card
of Mandy What's-Her-Nuts. So who do you got in this one?
Straight up Otis.
Otis all day, baby. I got Otis as well. All right, so my new girlfriend, Rhea Ripley, taking on Charlotte Flair. Rhea is the NXT Women's Champ. No doubt in my mind that Rhea wins this, and it's a fantastic match.
Do you have Charlotte Flair win another title in a big moment? Great match, but I agree with you. Give me Rhea Ripley.
All right, so we've got Street Profits as the current Raw Tag Team Champions taking on Angel Garza and Austin Theory. If you watched Raw this week, there was a monstrous spot with Montez, who Seth Rollins was supposed to grab his foot. Seth does not grab his foot. Montez bounces off the ropes, run to the other end, and throws himself over the top rope. Austin Theory, who is picking himself up off the floor, out of the corner of his eye, sees Montez flying through the air, and then instead of getting in the way to catch him, kind of dives the other way. And Montez basically threw himself on the floor. If you get a chance to go back and watch this week's Raw, it was a crazy moment. If you go to Twitter, I'm sure you can find it. absolutely insane. It was a nuts botch. Montez seems to be okay, so no problems there. I'm going with the Street Profits in this match. I think they are just too good, and like you said, every title can't change hands, right? So I don't think we're going to get a title change here.
Street Profits, one of those situations where I want to see their entrance. It could be very special in the way in which it's produced. It's going to be great. I like the way the Street Profits have come up in the last few months, so give me the Street Profits.
All right, we've got John Morrison taking on one of the Usos. We're not sure if it's going to be Jimmy or Jay. It's going to take place in a ladder match. Who do you have winning this one?
Well, obviously the Miz is sick and potentially we don't know why, he's not part of the card, but at this point in time, not cleared. So I think that heading into the match, it was going to be a great tag team match, but now that it's one of the Usos versus John Morrison, it's going to be a great spot fest, but give me one of the Usos.
Ooh, all right. I'm going with John Morrison in this one. The Kabuki Warriors versus Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross for the Women's Tag Team Championship. I'm going Alexa Bliss and I'm going Nikki Cross. I think it's time we get the belts off of the Kabuki Warriors. I don't really feel like they've done a fantastic job with those belts. I think it's time to spice it up. Give me something new. 100%.
Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross will make great champions. Kabuki Warriors, kind of a subpar run. I'd give it a B- run. And the lead up to this has been really significant to me.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. It's not been anything really good with the Kabuki Warriors. Everything has fallen flat. Bayley defends her SmackDown Women's Championship versus Sasha Banks, Lacey Evans, Naomi, and Tamina. Now originally, so some background on what was supposed to happen here, but everything that has happened in the world, kind of put these plans on pause. Sasha Banks was supposed to get a face turn, and she was supposed to go head to head with Bayley as the heel. So they've had some fantastic matches in the past. They were supposed to flip-flop spots and flip-flop roles. Sasha being the face, Bayley being the heel. But it was supposed to be a really, really good match that culminates here at WrestleMania 36. Not what we're getting. We're getting a fatal 5-way. I'm gonna go with Bayley retaining her championship.
Nope, it's time. Give it to Lacey Evans. The build-up is there. She is somebody that needs to have the belt to create some great new, fresh matchups. I think it's a situation where in a fatal 5-way, you can have it where, is this a situation where Lacey can pin somebody else and win?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, so Lacey will pin somebody else and Bayley can continue to be the heel that she is, and so she doesn't lose a whole heck of a lot. Just have Lacey pin Tamina, and you're all good to go. Give me Lacey Evans.
I like where your head's at. I think you're probably more spot on than me. My thought process is, I know WWE wants to do this thing with Sasha Banks and Bayley. I think they keep the title on Bayley just a little bit longer so they can get what they want out of that Sasha Banks Bayley angle. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins. This could tear the house down. This could be a fantastic match. This could be the best match of the evening. Kevin Owens versus the Messiah, Seth Rollins. Who do you got?
Okay. This one's tough because both probably need to get over in this matchup. But I think that at this point in time, Seth is the man and he's the bigger player. And the bigger players have to win. So it's going to be a great matchup, but I think that Seth Rollins will come away the victor.
After Seth cuts that promo on Kevin Owens talking about how he basically wins nothing at WrestleMania, I think this is going to be Kevin Owens' WrestleMania. I think Kevin Owens beats Seth Rollins. I think there might be some interference, but I think Kevin Owens overcomes Buddy Murphy and any of the interference that might come his way. I'm going to go Kevin Owens in this one. Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. I have no idea. I'm going to go Aleister Black.
Yeah, Aleister Black. No doubt.
All right, so we've got, this is a match that might or might not take place. King Corbin versus Elias.
Oh, easy. King Corbin. Elias is great, but King Corbin's got to be the guy they push forward.
All right, so this match might change to Mojo Rawley or might change to Gronk taking on King Corbin. Either way, I'm going King Corbin.
Yeah, King Corbin.
All right, so just to kind of recap everything. Doc leads in the predictions, 3-2 overall. Starting from the top down, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre. We both have Drew McIntyre. Goldberg versus Braun Strowman. You've got Goldberg. I've got Braun Strowman. Edge versus Randy Orton. We both have Edge. Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. We both have Bray Wyatt. Undertaker, AJ Styles. We both have Undertaker. Shayna Baszler, Becky Lynch. We both have Shayna Baszler. Sami Zayn, Daniel Bryan. I've got Daniel Bryan. You have Sami Zayn. Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. Hands down, Otis. Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair. We both have Rhea Ripley. Street Profits versus Angel Garza and Austin Theory for the Raw Tag Team Championships. We have Street Profits winning this. John Morrison versus one of the Usos in a ladder match. You've got one of the Usos, whether it be Jimmy or Jay, and I've got John Morrison. We both think Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross will win the Women's Tag Team Championships from the Kabuki Warriors. In a fatal five-way, Bayley versus Sasha Banks versus Lacey Evans versus Naomi versus Tamina for the Women's SmackDown Championship. You've got Lacey Evans. I've got Bayley retaining. Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins. You've got Seth Rollins. I've got Kevin Owens. Aleister Black versus Bobby Lashley. We both have Aleister Black, and we both have King Corbin beating either Elias, Mojo Rawley, or
whoever.
Gronk. Yeah, whatever happens in that match.
Oh, man, that's good. It could go either way. I like the setup. I like how the predictions went. 2 nights, probably for me, I'll pay more attention to Sunday. But I think in news and notes, there's more opportunities for fans to watch this card. So I'm fascinated to see how many people watch, what's the reaction, who does what. I think it'll be talked about, but this WrestleMania needs a surprise. It needs something to make it pop. And I can't wait to see what it'll be. All right, cuz, this is the go-home part of the show. Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes.
We've got a ton of them, too. It sounds like WWE is going to cancel its live events for at least April and is planning to pick them up in May. Now, I think that's a little bit of that's hopeful thinking because the way everything is going, you've got Virginia shut down until at least June with the coronavirus. All that being said, there are pay-per-views that are going to be postponed. So Money in the Bank was supposed to take place in May. That is getting pushed back. There's a number of other a number of other pay-per-views that are supposed to take place that are all getting delayed or pushed back. So just be mindful with everything going on with the coronavirus. WWE is shutting down a lot of its live events and a lot of its pay-per-views. Speaking of pay-per-views, according to Wrestling Inc., WWE and Fox announced that the WrestleMania 36 pay-per-view can be seen on the Fox Sports app and foxsports.com. WrestleMania will also become available on other pay-per-view platforms in the WWE network. Now, what it sounds like is Vince wants to move away from the WWE network, putting WrestleMania or putting the big shows, so WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Putting those big matches on the network and essentially giving them away. So he wants to redo something that he's done a long time ago by giving us all of these high-quality, high-end pay-per-views for the dirt cheap price of $9.99. He now wants to flip the script, and he wants to go back to charging per pay-per-view. So you will see the big pay-per-views end up on either Fox's pay-per-view service, the Fight Network. You will see them end up on the WWE Network, of course, for now at least, as well as other pay-per-view sites where they'll be charging you roughly $40 for the pay-per-view.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
Yeah.
You know what's up. You know what we'll be doing.
Going forward, it sounds like WWE is trying to move away from the network and trying to put these massive events on a paid service or a paid provider. So that the whole deal with ESPN, I think that might be part of the reason too why they teamed up with ESPN. That way they can get their pay-per-views on ESPN Plus. So watch what WWE is doing again, trying to put the rabbit back in the hat. You've already exposed the business and you've already given us stuff for $10 a month. Now you want to charge us $40? I think what they seen was what AEW was able to do with their pay-per-view service in the numbers that they bring in, and they're like, oh, people still want to pay for it that way. Because the big concern was how are people gonna be willing to pay for a pay-per-view when WWE just gives it away for free? Well, you see,
especially because the UFC does the same thing.
Exactly. So you see now that people line up to pay for the AEW pay-per-views because they're good. I don't know if WWE is going to have the same response. Now, according to Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio, WWE Chairman Vince McMahon gave performers and the Raw Executive Director Paul Heyman some rein when it came to promos on Monday's episode of Raw. Monday's Raw Go Home episode prior to WrestleMania 36 was very heavy on promos with The Undertaker, Kevin Owens, Edge, Becky Lynch, and Paul Heyman on behalf of Brock Lesnar, all cutting lengthy promos to sell the upcoming matches at WrestleMania. And where they were not heavily scripted, and they featured quite a bit of ad-libbing by the performers. So Vince said, hey guys, I trust you. Go do what you want to do. Here's some leash. Don't hang yourself. Kairi Sane has not been on WWE TV the past few weeks. It was reportedly planned ahead that she had, it has nothing to do with the coronavirus or the corona pandemic. According to Dave Meltzer, Sane has been at home in Japan spending time with her husband after recently getting married. WWE was reportedly aware that she would not be available until WrestleMania. Sane last competed in a televised match on March 9th's episode of Raw when she and her Kabuki Warrior tag team partner Asuka beat Liv Morgan and Natalya. Meltzer has also said that Kenny Omega is working through a torn labrum in his shoulder. Now, Brody Lee had a ton to say on the Chris Jericho podcast, and I'm going to give you some snippets of everything that he said. Brody Lee revealed to Chris Jericho during the Talk is Jericho podcast that he believed he began getting buried in WWE during his run with former WWE champion AJ Styles. Quote, we did an angle with Randy Orton where he turned. I got over. We got all the way to the championship match battle royal. I think me and AJ got down to the last two. We did a spot where we go over on the floor and we hit at the same time to do a match next week. In rehearsal, I hit no problem. It was beautiful. Of course, in the actual execution of it, I fucked up a little bit. My ass slid on the apron. Either he touched first or I did, but it was obviously that one of us touched first. They shot around it and explained that no, they touched at the same time. Then next week, AJ, who was the heel, ended up making me tap and pinning me in the same match. Like they restarted the match and I was like, yep, this is the end. This is it. Do you remember that? I remember that.
Yes.
The Brody Lee versus AJ Styles. I remember the feet touching. I remember us being like, their feet didn't touch at the same time. We talked about it on the podcast. We were like, this is so bad.
Yes, very bad. And that was the end. And it just stunk for him because that Luke Harper character could have done a lot more in WWE. Yep. But at the same time, I just thought about what you had said last time where he was offered godly amounts of money and he didn't take it. Bro, you're 40 years old. I know you've never been over, but I would have considered it. I could work 5 matches a year, show up, be part of the crew, and make an ungodly amount of money. I'm 40. I'm already a wrestler. I already got my history with the Wyatt family. You know, yeah, I understand, you know, the passion and everything, but I would have seriously considered, you know, if WWE's throwing out that amount of money to not work, damn, man, it's a good time for wrestlers.
Well, I think Brody Lee does a really good job explaining why he left an ungodly amount of money on the table with this quote. So again, during the podcast, Lee talked about Tony Khan, and Khan came to him and said, hey, we could delay your AEW debut if you wanted to. It was believed that Lee was always supposed to debut on the March 18th episode of Dynamite because it was taking place in his hometown of Rochester, New York. However, the show was moved to Jacksonville, Florida, and held without fans due to the coronavirus. Lee said, Tony specifically texted me and said, hey man, if you don't want to do this, we don't do this. I responded back and said, no man, I'm all in for Wednesday. Just let me know what you need me to do. I had a way out if I wanted it, but I had been cooped up so long. I just wanted to do something. I need to be creative. So he needs that creativity. And speaking of all that money that McMahon offered him, Brody Lee also said that Vince McMahon, like you said, offered him an ungodly amount of money. But Lee said, I don't care how many zeros you want to put on a piece of paper. I'm gone. McMahon has got that $1 million man complex. He's got to be able to buy everything. That's why he pays Brock Lesnar billions of dollars to come in and ruin his company, because he wants to own Brock. He wants to be like, Brock's my attraction. So some harsh words from Brody Lee, and I think he's spot on. Now, the WWE product has been bad. We've talked about how bad it's been in recent weeks, and Seth Rollins kind of agrees with us. The WWE product is so bad that Seth Rollins isn't even watching the broadcast. During an interview with Sports Illustrated, Rollins is quoted as saying, "I've spent a lifetime watching professional wrestling and WWE, so I'm certainly not watching any WWE while I'm off."
Quick plug to Sports Illustrated. Justin Barrasso does a great job of covering professional wrestling for Sports Illustrated. Check out his work at SI.com. He does great, man. He gets insights from Chris Jericho. He's always in the mix getting good interviews. He loves himself some professional wrestling, and he's covered it for so long for Sports Illustrated. What a quote by Seth Rollins. Mm-hmm. You know what, too? But you also got to think about it, too, and it reflects not only on the product, but when you're working at WWE, you're there all about it, talking about your character, talking about matches. You know, he's been doing it now for well over a decade. So there's some natural burnout where some time off is good, where you just don't be all about it, you know? And it's different, too, because all these wrestlers are fans. And obviously, when there's no fans and it's just work, it becomes more of a job. And that's what it's been without fans in professional wrestling. It's more like a job. Like, okay, this is what we're doing. We got to get to it. Whereas the performance aspect of it with fans, with the pomp and circumstance, makes it a lot better. So I just think, too, a guy like Seth Rollins, he needs something fresh. And even though he's been in a couple of new angles, sometimes it's just natural that, hey, you know, a guy like that could use a boost from a shift to AEW or some time off just to maybe after Mania take a little time off to refresh and come back with an even new gimmick or a new angle that can motivate you. Because when you do it day after day after day, 10 years, I mean, come on now. It's just, it wears on these guys. And the product isn't that good. I mean, what did they air? The Royal Rumble, or they aired on, they aired on last week's Raw, Ronda Rousey in her match. And I was like, oh my God, here we go again. I didn't even watch SmackDown. What did they air on SmackDown? Was it any good?
I just caught highlights of SmackDown.
Yeah, I didn't watch it. That's where
wrestling has been so bad. So normally when I watch Raw, I have Raw on in the background. When they go to the replays, I stop watching and I text you, and then after that I will go back if there's something new and interesting. But generally, dude, wrestling has been so poor. AEW seems to keep my attention and gets it right. SmackDown is generally awful, and Raw is not far behind.
Oh, I can't wait to recap WrestleMania next week. Man, it's been good. I've enjoyed talking wrestling with you. Pay attention during WrestleMania and at Flick Chat. We will be there breaking down matches. It's been interesting for me, and the blessing of the network. My final thought on this podcast would be, if WWE thinks we're going to pay $40 for a pay-per-view, they're crazy. When all they got to do is just, if you have 1 million subscribers, just charge everybody $2 more. Make even $3 more for the network. And then you get more revenue, incrementally raise the price. That's what everybody does. You know, don't charge people $40 for a pay-per-view when you've done this in this way. I would pay, my max number would be $15 for the network, because I've watched a lot of old wrestling. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I watched the Shawn Michaels special. I've watched, they've rolled out a great series about all the WrestleManias in terms of best matches, ranking them, a lot of highlights. So old wrestling still has a place in my heart. And so I would pay more for the network, you know, or tier it, where you say, okay, you get the big four for $15 or for $20, and then you get the rest of the network for $15. I would do that. Don't charge per pay-per-view. That's silly. I think that once you've gone to that model, you don't get to go back. But that's Vince for you. But for Seth Rollins, I hope he finds his love again, because he's a great guy. Great. And he's only young. He's still in his mid-30s. He can wrestle for another decade.
Yeah, no, I just think he's a little bit worn down right now.
Yep.
And look, we talked about how bad the product has been. Yep. You don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch it. So why the hell does he want to watch it?
No doubt, man. Great podcast. Follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you pay attention to Adam's other podcasts, Doc and Jock, the Practice Squad on Thursdays. And he's a glutton for punishment. He wants to rewatch the Detroit Lions 2011 season. The rewatch with Brendan Riley airs this Sunday around noon or so. Make sure you follow the network, subscribe, and nothing else you got to do. The podcast will find you. Go to your favorite podcast platform, search Detroit Sports Podcast, and you never have to worry about missing another episode. We'll talk next week, cuz.
All right, brother. Be good. Enjoy Mania.